Good morning. My name is Sarah Fossiltz. I serve as the board administrator for the Texas State Board of Social Worker Examiners. I'd like to begin with calling the roll. Chair Brumley,
Present.
Ms. Sáenz Davila. Let's see her. Ms. Andrade expressed her regrets that she's not able to attend. Ms. Della Pena.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Dollinger.
Present.
Ms. Pryor.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers. Ms. Swartz.
Present.
And Ms. Tatum expressed that she may not be able to come. Here comes Ms. Sáenz Davila. We'll give her a moment. But we do have a quorum, so Chair Brumley, it's ready for the meeting to begin.
All right. Thank you everybody for taking time out of your day to show up to have this meeting, and we will call the meeting to order. So we have agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action approving the final results of the agency's quadrennial rule review, including consideration of public comments received in writing and during the August 2nd town hall. So Robert, you have that?
I do indeed. Thank you very much. Hello, board members. I'm going to share my screen. You will see a generally familiar presentation. It will come up here in just a moment. There we go. All right, so we are coming to the close of the big rule review process. We've gotten everyone's feedback and had a open town hall forum to gather some public comments, as well as a written form people could send in. And so today our task is to go through and let y'all know what sort of the final findings are of the rule review. There is a few rules that we believe we need to act on more quickly because they've identified problems, overlap in statute, or things that are need fixing. But the vast majority of these findings are really just setting up what we will be bringing to you as discussion points over the next months and years. To the public, all of these ideas were added from your comments. Every comment was shared with the board members, and we will systematically go through all of them with the board over the next months. I can't promise any action on them, but I can promise we will talk about them. So first up is the category we identified as needing to be repealed. I'm going to go through these very quickly because you will actually see them in a little bit later in the agenda as proposed rules that we're bringing to you. And so I'm not going to stop on these, but we did get some public comment about them that you will have seen, and we will discuss each one in turn as we get to them. The second category are really just housekeeping things that need standardization across the boards, or just for this board's rules. A lot of these we will have broader conversations with all of the council members and board members. Things like court-related practices, military applications, how boards handle their meetings and committee meetings, and then telepractice. And as I have said previously, each of these topics are ones that we think there is some room for consolidation and standardization, but we want to have the discussion. There's no language on the table yet, and we will not standardize just for the sake of standardizing. We will ask the question, are there efficiencies to be gained and logical ways to run the agency? There are a couple of amendments that we will bring to you that probably, honestly, these are more cleanup that will happen as we have other reasons to amend these rules. So they're not high priorities, but just to point them out. Things like the rule requires a renewal form that we don't actually require anymore. another rule says that you're required to return your license. Well, we don't actually require folks to physically return a license anymore. So these sort of cleanup things that we won't bother you with individually, but we will bring up as much in sort of group rulemaking as we can to decrease the number of times we are asking for your attention about rule changes. And then the part I wanted to settle on a little bit longer is the last category, which are these, as I said, are the topics that are going to be longer term discussions with the board, topics that maybe have hard questions that don't have easy answers, and things that are raised by the public that they're bringing forward as changes they would like to see. A lot of these are looking at the standards of practice and how folks are engaging in relationship with their clients or relationship with their supervisors, and raising the question, are the rules setting the standards that you really are intending? Part of the opportunity of the 4-year rule review process is to just ask the question, hey, these rules have been sitting here for a while. Is this still what we think of as the correct minimum regulatory standards? Is it best practices that the profession uses, or have things changed? How long must records be kept? How much reporting is required? Things like that. And so I won't go through each one of these, but you see there's a fairly good list there. And then on this second slide, there's another list of topics, sort of, again, clarifying what sort of agreements and oversight do supervisors need to have of their clients, what kind of practice settings are individuals able to use, especially to gain supervision hours. So things like that. That's it. Happy to answer any questions folks may have about these findings. Again, we're asking the board for a vote simply to approve that this is the final findings of the rule review. That vote does not commit you as the board to any rule changes. Again, each rule change will be its own vote as through the rulemaking process. But I would ask for your endorsement that we have done the rule review process and this is our final findings.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Do any board members have a question based on the information you just saw? All right. Seeing none, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to accept the quadrennial rule review outcome as presented by Robert Romick.
This is Ryan. I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay. Have a motion from Mr. Dollinger. Need a second?
This is Corey. I'll second it.
Corey Dela Pena has made a second. So all those in favor of accepting the agenda item number 2 as described, please signify by raising your right hand. All right. It does carry. All right. So that was agenda item 2. Now we'll move into agenda item 3, which is public comment. Noting that we do not have any public here in person, I will turn it over to Sarah for any public comment online.
For those of you who are attending by computer, use the raise hand feature in Zoom to let us know that you'd like to give a public comment. While you're finding that, I'd like to revisit some of the housekeeping notes. Individuals who raise their hand will be allowed to unmute and give their public comment. Once all of the individuals with raised hands have been given an opportunity to speak, the individuals appearing by telephone will be asked whether they would like to make a public comment. Those attending by telephone can use *6 to unmute. Please note that public comment is not intended for a discussion or a question and answer session with the board. Additionally, when making public comment, please identify yourself and whether you are speaking individually or on behalf of an organization. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise directed by the presiding officer. As always, you have the opportunity to provide written comments to the board at any time through our Contact Us webpage. And the agenda includes a specific form for that prior to the meeting. So with that, I will look at the attendees who have raised a hand. And Mr. Francis, you have comment?
Yes, good morning. My name is Will Francis. I'm the Executive Director of the National Association of Social Workers, Texas and Louisiana chapters. First off, I'd just like to thank Robert Romig for his very clear description of the rules changes that need to be made. I would really like to thank this board for taking the time to work with staff on those. We're very much in agreement with where the rules changes are moving and look forward to having more discussions around other areas. I just wanted to highlight an area that I spoke on last week, I believe, at the Legislative Budget Board hearing for the Behavioral Health Executive Council. Right now, the Psychology Board is exploring using dollars to develop their own licensing exam. And I really believe that Texas social workers would benefit from a Spanish language licensing exam. I think we have many folks out there who are practicing primarily in Spanish. I think we have many folks whose Spanish is their first language. And we know, and some of the research shows that down around the valley and in other areas of the state, we have folks who are having challenges getting licensed because of the exam itself. It's a barrier for many reasons. There's data out there that shows there's concerns about the format itself. But I think having a Spanish language exam would greatly benefit the workforce in Texas. And I think it would really increase the amount of social workers that we bring to support people across the state. I would really love it if this board was able to look at some of the data and some of the research, take a look and see who is primarily speaking Spanish. What would some of the costs be to work with ASWB in this area? How folks at this level could really advocate and allow Texas to be the first state to do it. ASWB, who creates our exam, has precedence here. They're working with Canada on a French language exam for Quebec. And I think that having a Spanish one in Texas would really move to other states as well and would really position us as one of the leaders in social work and increasing workforce. Happy to discuss this issue more at any time, and really just thank you for the opportunity to share today.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. I see no other raised hands, so I'm going to call on the caller. Caller, do you have public comment? You can use *6 to unmute if you have public comment. Hearing none, I believe that concludes public comment. I see no other individuals attending by telephone. So I believe that ends public comment.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Will, for your comments. That'll move us to agenda item 4, board review and possible action regarding appeals of application or licensure denials.
I know of no appeals or denials for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 5, board review and possible action regarding agreed orders to be executed by the board.
There are no orders for the board to execute.
All right. Agenda item number 6 is board review and possible action regarding contested cases from the State Office of Administrative Hearings, otherwise SOAH, including docket number 510-23-25-860 in the matter of Rudy Bustos Jr., and item B 510-24-19-843 in the matter of Shanetra Fowler. Patrick, do you have any input on those?
Sure. We'll start with Mr. Bustos, and that is there's a proposal for decision from SOAH regarding this application denial. Mr. Bustos falls under Chapter 108, unfortunately, and so he was convicted of felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Under 108, it states that the social work and the psychology board must deny any applicants who have been convicted of a felony offense involving use or threat of force. This went to SOAH. SOAH found that the board must deny the application. And so there is the record is in the board's materials for them to review, and also a proposed order that would adopt the proposal for a decision from the PFD that's in the PFD from SOAH that would deny the application. So we're asking that the board approve that recommended order and it be sent to the council for possible ratification in October. Mr. Bustos was sent notice of this meeting, and so we would like to give him a few minutes to make a statement if he's in attendance.
I searched the attendee list for Bustos and for Rudy and found no results. If someone is here as Mr. Bustos' representative, or if Mr. Bustos logged in under another name, could you use the raise hand feature to identify yourself? And I don't know if the person attending by telephone. So telephone attendee, are you Mr. Bustos or a representative of Mr. Bustos? If so, use *6 to unmute. No response. So I don't believe that either Mr. Bustos or a representative is in attendance.
Okay. Patrick, you're going to do the next one. We'll just vote on them both together, or could we do them that way?
Yeah, if you'd like,
Yes.
to, sure.
Let's just do that.
Ms. Fowler, so just to let you know, Chair Brumley, you were on the ISC for Ms. Fowler, so you'll need to recuse. You can vote on Mr. Bustos,
But not on Ms. Fowler, yes.
I'm not on Ms. Fowler. And so that
Would
is
it be easier to then do separately?
Yeah, let's just do it separate since I'm going to recuse. So,
Okay.
so let's, so board members, having heard Patrick's description of agenda item 6A concerning Rudy Bustos Jr., need a motion to accept the findings as presented.
This is Ryan. I'll accept the findings as presented.
Okay, need a second.
This is Jennifer. Second.
Okay, have a second from Jennifer Swartz. So hearing that, we need to entertain that with a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Okay, motion does carry. So Patrick, you can move forward with that one.
Okay, the next case is a disciplinary case for Ms. Fowler. There's a default order from and remand back to the agency from SOAH. Ms. Fowler has failed to respond to any of the notices we sent her, whether it's the notice of violation, the informal settlement conference notice. She didn't show up at the SOAH hearing. And so staff asked for a default order and remand back to this agency. And so there is a default order that in the board's packet that we would recommend the board approve to send to the council for ratification at the October meeting. The short of it is that what Ms. Fowler had abandoned patients and had not cooperated with any of the investigation into this. And at this point, staff is recommending revocation because any other sanction is unenforceable. If we want to fine her money, there's no way we're going to going to be back here in 6 months with another order saying she didn't pay the fine that we ordered. So the only alternative we can think of right now is to revoke her license, and she can reapply in a year's time, and she'd be back before the board to explain this. So
okay. All right. So hearing that, agenda item 6, part B.
I do see a Shanetra F in the.
Oh, and she was provided notice. Yes, if she's here, let's give her an opportunity.
There she is. She's raised her hand. Ms. Fowler, can you unmute? There you go.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Shanetra Fowler. I am here today to I guess speak to the board in regards to I guess non-cooperation. As I had explained before, when I met before the board, I was going through a domestic violence situation where I was not having access to like emails, my cell phone. I was living in my car. I just gained access back into my property on August 16th. And so now I'm getting caught up on everything. I have a completely new email address, new phone number and everything, and I'm willing to cooperate. I just had there was a lot going on with my home situation, my financial situation. I'm not running from it. I wasn't trying to run away from the responsibility. I just could not risk, I guess, putting myself in a situation of harm's way where I would be assaulted or something by my future ex-husband. But I am here and I want to, provide whatever evidence I can, or and all of this you all would be able to see if, you looked at, I guess, public records. There is restraining orders. There have been police records. Um, so yeah, I am here. I'm here today.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler.
So if you'd like to hear from Mr. Clark, I think he's in attendance. He can speak to all of the efforts that were made to contact her. I know that it's been going on for many months, but it's the board's discretion. This is the first that we've heard from Ms. Fowler on this matter. And so there's been, over several months, months and months of numerous letters and different attempts to contact her. So again, the board can, it's remanded back to the board so the board can actually take a different action, but it's good we finally did get a response. It's wish it was sooner.
Right. So board members, having heard from Attorney Patrick and Ms. Fowler, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, would you like to hear from Attorney Clark at all?
Well, let's see if they want to hear.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, do y'all want so I have to recuse myself from voting on this one as I was been party to it. So I would entertain, do y'all want to hear from Attorney Clark or do you want to take a vote? Jennifer, are you shaking your head? Yes, you want to hear from Attorney Clark? Okay.
I would be open to that.
Okay. I think everybody's indicated. So Brian, if you're out there, I will turn it over to you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. I can just say she was sent the NOV. She was then sent 2 reminder notices. We know she got the NOV because she requested an extension. She was sent the ISC notice. She did show up to the ISC. After the ISC, she was sent the notice of the SOAH hearing. She was sent the petition for the SOAH hearing. And then she was sent another notice when the hearing was over. So she's had numerous opportunities to respond.
Can you describe the time frame from when the NOV, the notice of violation, was sent and when the ISC, the informal settlement conference, was scheduled through the State Office of Administrative Hearing? Just roughly.
Yeah, it'll take me just a second. Let's see. So on August 29th, 2022, we received the complaint. March 22nd, 2023, an NOV was sent via certified mail. It was delivered on March 25th, 2023. On May 3rd, 2023, she acknowledged receiving the NOV and requested an extension to file a response. On May 3rd, 2023, the council granted a response, an extension, excuse me. Then on July 28th, 2023, a reminder notice was sent. On September 1st, 2023, another reminder notice was sent with a copy of the NOV. And the council never received an NOV response. I don't have the date of the ISC here. I can look that up if that's needed.
I think that gives us a sense of the time frame.
Patrick, you have input?
So I was going to add, it's the board's discretion of what avenue they want to go down. What the board could do in this instance is, since we do finally have a response and we believe that she may comply, The reason for the revocation is because we didn't think that we were ever going to hear back from this person, and so that's why, why, again, like I said before, why find somebody and then we're going to have to then open up a case when they don't pay the fine. Right. In this instance, there are two different findings, and so you could follow the schedule of sanctions or find aggravated or mitigating circumstances, and you could enter an order that doesn't necessarily revoke the licensee, but follows whatever those sanctions are for those particular violations. That's an option as well.
Okay, board members, y'all understand what Patrick is saying, that we have a choice that we can revoke, as indicated prior to hearing from Ms. Fowler, or now having heard from Ms. Fowler and Attorney Clark, we can follow the sanction matrix based on the violations that have occurred. So I would open it for discussion or input or a motion. Ryan, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, part of it got answered, was what was the reason for the revocation, and it just sounds like we couldn't get in touch with her. Yeah. So I guess my question is I know that the charges, she abandoned patients, I don't really know what surrounded that. So I'm wondering, is it something that she would normally be revoked for, or would this be something that she was just be fined for? Okay.
No, the standard sanction on the penalty matrix is a reprimand for the rule that was cited. It was 781.30. Oh, is it 3032? I think, if I'm reading that correctly, and that's a reprimand with an admin penalty, no less than $250, no more than $5,000. And then the failure to cooperate, the standard sanction on that is a suspension.
Okay. I personally, given the situation that she's described, I don't feel that I could support revoking her license today. That's my opinion, but
I agree with Ryan. Yeah.
For the board's consideration, if I may ask Ms. Fowler if she's provided the council with her new email address or her new address. And Ms. Fowler, you can unmute.
Yes, ma'am, I did. I updated the state's database with my new email address and phone number.
Thank you.
All right. So any further discussion or questions? All right. So I will open for a motion.
This is Ryan. I'll make a motion that we send this back, that she go through the appropriate, that we can try to work with her and see if we can resolve this.
I'll second.
Okay. When you say send it back, are you saying send back to her the sanction that's associated with the incident?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If I could, for the board's consideration, could I ask, did we ever receive a response to the notice of violation? Did we ever receive Ms. Fowler's side of the story prior to her verbal testimony today?
No, ma'am. We
Yeah.
did not.
Yeah, Brian said no.
We did not. So what's appropriate in that situation?
So there's numerous avenues you can go down. Some of them would be that I might recommend is either the board can either change the order recommendation and actually enter a final order because it's already gone through numerous steps to get to this point. It can be sent back. That's very rare for it to be sent back, I'll be honest with you. The other thing is you can also do
investigation.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
correct.
Okay.
Right. Sent backwards in the process after it's already had a SOAH gone through a notice of violation, an informal settlement conference, SOAH hearing. What might be two avenues to go down, or simultaneous ones, is we could offer her an agreed order that she could either sign, and it would resolve the matter, and it would be in line with what the schedule of sanctions are, say, for the particular violation. Or if she's unwilling to sign the agreed order, we could then enter a final order in accordance with the what the schedule of sanctions would be for that particular violation.
And Ms. Fowler has her hand raised. Will you hear from Ms. Fowler again?
Sure. Ms. Fowler, you can unmute.
Hi, I appreciate you all hearing from me. I would appreciate an opportunity to defend myself. The allegations against me were untrue. Um, I haven't had the opportunity to go through all of my records, but I remember the agency that I was working at the time, and it was just flat out false. Um, I would like the opportunity to come before the board with the evidence that I do have, showing everything that I'm saying is true, and just having the opportunity to defend myself and my work ethic. I wouldn't just abandon patients or clients.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
I
Fowler.
apologize that I didn't, I was just, the last 4 years has been really, really difficult. Um, and I'm fighting, and I would like the opportunity to demonstrate and show that I am a good social worker, ethical social worker.
Okay.
If I can have the
Thank you for
opportunity,
that.
please.
Thank you for that, Ms. Fowler. So part of the issue is the time frames that we're working with, and so we're going to hear now from Director Spinks. He has his hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be candid. We do not need to be sending this back. This has already been through the entire process. We have already been to SOAH. You have a PFD in your hands, a proposal for decision from SOAH. Part of our job is to bring finality and conclusion to these types of issues. We do not need to be rechurning this through a process again. Ms. Fowler has had an opportunity to plead her case. She chose not to do it. She chose not to respond. She chose to ignore us. Now, I'm not saying you have to revoke her. You can certainly go with whatever the schedule of sanctions is. But I'm sorry, but there are consequences in life for action and inaction. And this is just one where I'm going to have, I'm not a voting member. I recognize that. So I'm not trying to be pushy or anything here, but she had her time. And you've got findings from an administrative law judge that'll support a sanction here. And I think you need to go ahead and enter a sanction so that we can bring them some finality to this matter.
Okay. Thank you, Director Spinks. So again, now having heard from all parties, I will entertain a motion. Ryan, are you speaking?
I just don't feel, I personally don't feel comfortable because I don't know she has not had the opportunity to tell us what happened for anything to be put in. So if
but she has had opportunity. She didn't take the opportunity.
I think given the circumstances, is kind of what I'm hearing from the attorneys, that's what we need to follow our rules regarding that. And I understand things can get very complicated when you're in a DV situation. And I know she appeared today, so I know Attorney Patrick was mentioning that reprimand and a fine was also an option, correct?
Yes.
So I think that's better than the other option of revoking the license.
Are you putting that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second, but I'm going to hold on the vote and hear from Attorney Clark.
Okay.
So I just wanted to remind you that she did come to the ISC. So the ISC panel heard her story. The ISC panel was aware of everything, and they decided to offer her an agreed order. She turned down the agreed order and asked to go to SOAH. I just wanted to be sure that was clear.
Oh, okay, but she didn't show up for SOAH.
Brian, can you remind us what the terms were of that agreed order that was offered at the ISC?
Sure. We offered her a 2-year probated suspension, 6 hours of professional development and ethics, and her supervisor status was to be revoked.
Okay.
And she.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, and she didn't agree to that.
Correct.
She didn't respond. Right, Brian?
No, she did respond. She said
Okay.
that she asked for a SOAH hearing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Robert?
So I was just going to offer that it is entirely appropriate for the board to go with the ISC panel and enforce what was recommended by the ISC panel. And though you also have the option to add a reprimand and or fine on top of that, in light of going to a SOAH hearing and her not responding.
Right.
Any combination. Given that revocation is the top penalty, essentially anything underneath is fair game, I think.
Yeah. All right.
And
so
I have a quick question.
Yes.
And if we did agree, the 2-year suspension that you talked about, I think it was Brian that was saying.
And it was probated suspension. So that means she still practices, but she is in a probated status.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Okay. So that was my question.
Basically, if she doesn't mess up again, she gets to keep her license. But if she does, then she loses it. Is that correct?
There'll be other avenues for hearing that information. It's not an automatic, but yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So is there a motion, a change in the motion?
Well, I'd just like to ask, just for clarity, what are the options we have right now?
So we have, we could vote to revoke, which was the initial one. We can continue with the ISC finding, which is probated suspension and some continuing education hours and loss of her supervisor status. Or we have a motion to reprimand from Dolores and a fine. Yeah, a reprimand and a fine. So we have 3 things on the table. So there's revocation, hold up the ISC outcome, and then the or a reprimand and fine.
Is it one or the other, or is it potentially a combination of a couple of things?
So the revocation would be a standalone. The other 2 could be individual, or they could be combined.
So the other 2, were those the 2 offers that were previously offered to her that she turned down?
The offer that was made came from the informal settlement conference, which is the ISC, and that's where she came before a panel, a social worker and a public member, typically, and it was discussed, and that panel made a decision for probated suspension, 6-hour CEs, and the loss of supervisor status. The other one is the motion that board member Dolores made about the so Dolores, your hand is raised. Quita, do you have any more questions, Ms. Pryor?
No, that makes it clearer.
Okay, thank you. Dolores, go ahead.
My question was regarding the supervisory status, because I wasn't familiar with that recommendation with the ISC. So with the reprimand, she would keep that supervisory status?
No, well, it depends on what the motion is. So yeah, I mean,
if there's a probated suspension or revocation in the order, then the supervisor status is automatically revoked.
Lost, yeah.
If it's less than a probated suspension, like a reprimand, then the supervisor status remains intact.
Well, after hearing from Attorney Clark, and the recommendations that were made, I'd rather change it to the recommendation that was made, because they've heard everything and proposed that.
So understanding you're changing your motion to go with the IC findings.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll still second that.
All right. Ryan has a second. All right. So now we have a motion and a second to go with the findings that were outcome of the informal settlement conference, which are probated suspension, revocation of her supervisor status, and 6 hours of continuing education. Is that all of it, Patrick? That's all it was.
It was 2 years of probated
2 years of probated suspension. Yeah.
Loss of supervisor status.
Right.
And 6 hours of CEs
of ethics.
Of ethics.
Above and beyond those required for renewal.
Right.
Okay. All right. So having heard that, having a motion and a second, I will. I have to recuse myself, so I will open the floor to voting from you guys by saying aye or raising your hand. Okay. Motion does carry. All right.
So Ms. Fowler, you'll receive information about what just transpired in writing and shortly after this meeting, within a number of days, I imagine.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 7, report of agreed orders executed by the council's executive director.
And I believe those orders are in the board's packet.
They've
already been entered. So if there's any questions about them, we could try to answer them, but they're really there for informational purposes.
Yeah. And we don't have to take action on those.
No action.
Just a report. So board members, you have those in your packet and you had opportunity. Anybody have any questions concerning any of those? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item 8, which is again a report out of cases dismissed by the council's executive director. Those are also in your packet and you had opportunity to review those. Any questions? All right. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 9, status report of quarterly enforcement case activities.
That's also in your board packet. If you have any questions, I'll see what I can do to answer them.
And if you took time to look at that, you can see that we continue to make positive progress in moving cases along. So it's very different from it was 5 or 6 years ago. All right, now we have agenda item 10, which is a report out from committee chairs. So report from Ethics Committee, which I chair. We did not meet during the previous period. So B, report from Licensing Standards Qualifications Committee Chair, Ms. Saenz Davila.
We also did not meet.
Okay, having nothing to report. Professional Development Committee, which I also chair. We don't really have anything to report out.
Only that in the last meeting, there was some request for changes made to the jurisprudence exam, and those changes were reported complete by the vendor on July 10th.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Sarah. And then report from Rules Committee, Mr. Dollinger. Anything from you guys?
We have not met, so nothing to report.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to move into agenda item 11, discussion and possible action regarding repeal of rules considering changes to the schedule of sanctions recommended during quadrennial rule review. Title 22 of the Texas Administrative Code. So we'll just take these one at a time, and I will turn to Robert Romig for information. Now, we saw some of this in his previous report, but we're now going to hear more detailed information.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chair, you can, for these proposals, you can take a vote on in each individually, or we can talk about them as a bundle, and you can take one vote on them.
Yeah, we'll take a vote at the end.
So the first rule, which was one of the ones identified in the rule review process, 781-306, the change is to remove a provision that talks about social worker not encouraging or allowing a client to hold exaggerated ideas. We talked fairly extensively when we presented these rule review findings to you last time, but just to reiterate, removing this provision would not remove the rest of the rules, both in the social work rules and the overall BHEC rules, that prohibit licensees from making or benefiting from fraudulent statements or misrepresentations. And so what this would simply do is make it clear a social worker is not required to jump in every time someone makes a false statement about something related to social work and feel like they're responsible for educating everyone in every situation. But it would still be a violation of our rules to make any sort of misrepresentations, particularly to a client, or to benefit from a client's misunderstanding. So that would still be a violation. Any questions about 306? The next rule is 310. Sure, this up.
Okay.
And what this is removing is simply a sentence that is referencing compliance with another chapter of law that simply goes further than the agency has jurisdiction for, because it is saying that compliance with this act there is definitively not a violation of state law. That is well beyond our jurisdiction, and really the first sentence is the part that is meaningful and necessary to us. And so it's simply removing extraneous language that goes beyond our authority. And certainly anyone jump in at any point if you have questions, happy to answer them, but I'll keep moving along. The next rule proposal is to repeal 781.313, which has to do with corporate and business names. And this repeal is to remove language that gets into the non-practice related side of a licensee's business. Businesses are already regulated by the Business and Commerce Code in terms of what they can register as and how they have to use their names and be clear. And again, just like with one of the earlier rules, removing this language here will not allow a licensee to be fraudulent or misleading or misrepresenting. Again, licensees who have a business and choose to use some sort of corporate or business name will not be allowed to do so in a way that misleads or misconstrues things to the client. That will still be considered a violation by this board. Just wanting everyone to be very clear on that. Next to last is 781.804 on disciplinary actions. This is removing a disciplinary action that we do not have the authority to issue, and we have not in many years. So it's cleaning up the language. It's a conditional letter of agreement. We don't use them anymore and can't if we wanted to. And then last but not least, 781, sorry, sir, moving too quickly for you. 781.805 is a proposal, is merely updating the schedule of sanctions to reflect the changes I just gave to you. So just making it doesn't change any status or schedule of sanction for anything other than just updating it to reflect removing those sections that were altered by these other proposals. So.
All right. Anybody have any questions or input on what we've just heard from Deputy Director Romig? All right. No questions. I will entertain a motion to adopt. We'll do it this way. We'll adopt agenda item 11A through E as presented by Mr. Romig.
I make a motion.
We have a motion from Sayas Davila.
I second.
Was that Jennifer? Did you do that?
Yes.
Okay, that was from Jennifer Schwartz. So we have a motion and a second to adopt as described 11A through E. All those in favor signify by saying yay or raising your hand. Motion does carry. All right, that moves us to agenda item 12, discussion and possible action regarding public comment on proposed rules published in the August 2nd, 2024 Texas Register and recommended to the council concerning possible adoption and proposed changes to Title 22 of the Texas Administrative Code 781-302, the practice of social work. Is that you, Robert?
That's me again. And just to clarify this agenda item versus the last ones, mainly for the public, all of those proposals we just talked about will still go through the normal rulemaking process, even though they were identified in rule review. This vote was to propose them to the council, who will have to vote on them. They will have to go in the Texas Register. They will be there for 30 days. They will come back before this board to be adopted. So,
and all that should have, so the council meets in October, so they could be there in October, then 30 days gets it November. So in our early 2025 meeting, this is when this would happen.
Exactly. The intention is for them to come back up for adoption in January. It all depends on how fast the review process at the governor's go and get it into the register.
Gotcha.
Can't promise it'll be January, but that's our intention.
Okay. All right. So back to 12.
So item 12, 302, you have the rule changes. We are not making any changes, recommending any changes to what was proposed. You have the public comment in your folder. Most of the comment, I will note, particularly for those in the audience that made the comments, if you go down to section new H at the very bottom. So this part that is eliminating old H and amending I to now be H was designed to address when a social worker might be engaged in an employment setting and be directed or allowed to work from home, but recognizing that that is not, just because you're working from home, that is not an independent practice that you are opening. You are not allowed to do that unless you are recognized for independent practice. But you may work from home under the direction of the agency in which you were employed. The comments that we got, there was actually a misprint in the Texas Register. It was not our doing. This last sentence where the if is underlined and the unless is struck, they left the unless unstruck in the Texas Register, which made that sentence very confusing for folks, and I apologize for that. There was not something missing. Simply the unless should be deleted and just be an if. So because of that, I don't think there's any changes or anything we need to do in response to the public comment. And otherwise, the changes in the rule are really meant to just make the rule a little bit easier to understand for folks about what they are allowed to do or not allowed to do if they have an LBSW, LMSW, or LCSW.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Any questions or discussion on agenda item number 12?
I do like, there was a comment by Will where he added as allowable by third-party payers at the end of that sentence. I kind of like that because it clarifies that it's really up to the payer to allow it or not, right? So I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, we would consider that an unspoken truth.
Okay.
That we can only speak for what is allowable to us. And we get this question a lot about folks asking us, am I allowed to be reimbursed by insurance? Am I allowed under council rules? And most of the time we say, we don't regulate insurance or third-party payers or anything like that. So we can't tell you yes or no. You have to ask them. I don't have strong objections other than we generally try not to make statements about other parties' abilities. But again, I don't have Patrick.
For the board members' consideration, if it's worded if allowed by the payer, it may be construed that you're putting the burden then to know whether it's allowable or not on someone other than the licensee, and and you're maybe implying that the licensee may rely on someone else as to what is permissible. And to be clear, it's the licensee's burden to know what is permissible.
Okay. Disregard.
All right. Any further input or discussion? All right. So we will need a motion on agenda item 12.
I'll make a motion.
So I have a motion from Mr. Dollinger. Need a second?
Second.
Have a second from Ms. Saenz Davila. So all those in favor of adopting 781, the changes made to 781-302 concerning the practice of social work, indicate by saying aye, raising your hand. So the motion does carry unanimously. So does that have to go back in the register because of that misspelled word or misappropriated word?
I don't. Right.
Okay.
Right. So we will indicate it as with changes, even though on our end we're not making changes. But to alert anyone to the fact
that sees it out there, they'll know why. Okay. All right. So again, that still has to come back to the BHEC that comes to BHEC in October and goes through the same process. All right. Okay. Agenda item 13, discussion and possible action regarding jurisprudence exam. So
the quarterly report was in your materials. If you have any questions, I'll entertain them.
Yeah. And I know we're getting fewer
comments.
Yeah, fewer complaints and comments once we've made some changes on that. So it's a good thing. All right. Anybody have any questions concerning the jurisprudence exam? All right. Agenda item 14, report from the board chair concerning challenges, accomplishments, lawsuits, interaction with stakeholders, officials, state officials, and staff, committee appointments and functions, workload of the board members, conferences, general information regarding the routine functioning of the board. Just a few minor things that I know about. I attended the leadership conference with ASWB back in August. They are continuing to do requests for proposals for some research concerning testing outcomes and looking at issues surrounding the test. So that's something that you can find on the ASWB website. I know the NASW conference is, I think, the second week in November. It's going to be in Irving this year. And then it does coincide and go right at the same time. I will not be at the NASW conference. I will be in the ASWB Delegate Assembly, which is also the second week of November. So that's the only input I have as far as agenda item 14. So we will move on to agenda item 15, report from the board delegates to the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council regarding the activities of the council meeting and rulemaking actions taken on the June 25th, 2024 meeting, adopted rules, proposed rules, and other council updates. So Ms. Pryor and I are the folks who attend the BHEC meetings, and I'll just report out just basically from memory here. So we did all the rules that the social work, the Board of Social Worker Examiners sent up to BHEC were approved in the meeting that we had then. So those then they go in the register, Robert, after again, or
they're so some of them went in the register that were proposed and will be adopted. We hope at
the October meeting. Yes. So the October meeting, I think, is October 15th or 16th. So if you want to review the agenda for that, it will be posted soon. It has to be 30 days prior, right? So
the agenda. Yeah.
Oh, 7 days prior. Okay. So it'll be coming out in time for you to review it then. So Ms. Pryor, you have anything about the BHEC meeting that you want to have input on?
No comments.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. We'll move to 16, report from the board administrator concerning operations, organization, staffing, workload, and a lot of other stuff. And I'll let Sarah go.
So board members, you have in your packet a brief report on the July 25th. The council staff held a webinar, Insights Over the Lunch Hour. And August 26th, I participated in a presentation from ASWB regarding some of their tools, in particular, how Texas partners with ASWB to do the pre-exam eligibility tasks. So there's a brief report about that. Would like to remind everyone to spread the word among your students and those who may be applying or may be sitting registering for the exam. Texas has a specific registration process, and you can see it online at our at the social work boards. I'm going to share that with you. From our homepage at www.bhec.texas.gov. If you'd click on the link for Texas State Board of Social Worker Examiners, you'll get a quick link list on the right-hand side specific to the Social Work Board. And about 4 from the bottom is ASWB licensure examinations. Click on that link, and it leads you to the Texas-specific portal for registering for the exam. If you have any trouble with exam registration, contact ASWB. And I'm going to give you a caveat for that. You want to contact staff at ASWB who are familiar with the Texas process. And you do that through the email that's texas@aswb.org. If you contact ASWB's general staff through their main phone line or their main email, you'll probably get a correct answer for some other state rather than Texas, because our process is specific. So just a reminder about that for all of those who are anticipating registering for the exam. ASWB launched, there's an examination guidebook, and now they also have a non-standard testing arrangements handbook. So if you're not familiar with those documents as a candidate for the exam, you would want to read through those and keep those in mind. I want to thank Ms. Skiff for posting updated rule books. They're on the statute and rules webpage. If you've downloaded the exam books, the consolidated rule books in the past, you'll want to go back to our statute and rules webpage. I'm clicking on the quick link and download the updated ones. They're always available here, the most up-to-date version, but some people like to download them for quicker searches. And that's what the consolidated rulebook is really handy for, is for searching on a particular keyword if you can't remember exactly where the rule lies. I think that is the end of my report, unless you have any questions about any of the materials I provide for you.
Anyone have any questions? All right. And again, I want to thank Sarah and Brenda and all the folks that work on that rule book. And for those in the public and board members, you guys take time. If you have a question, that rule book we've worked on it a lot over the last 2 or 3 years, trying to get it so it's more user friendly. You are able to search out things and find things. And now working on trying to get it in language that even I can understand. So it makes it a lot better for everyone, I would hope. So thank you all for that. All right, then agenda item number 17 was an added agenda item, discussion concerning August 27, 2024 ProPublica article, what mental health care protections exist in your state. And this was brought to us by board member. So I will turn it over to board member Sáenz Davila to discuss this.
Thank you. Yeah, I also attended the lunch meeting that was held by Robert and Sarah, and having heard from them and then getting the article, I just thought it'd be good to bring it up to the board and potentially discuss that and hear other people's opinions. I know that we keep talking about having a shortage of professionals and why professionals are leaving, to do other type of work or leaving the insurances. So when I heard the word panel as well, that comes to mind, insurance panels. I know they don't work with us, but in a way we do work together because our license is used by the insurance for our patients. And so I'm worried about not just the shortage that we have right now, but the shortage because there's going to be such an increase in, for example, Medicare. I know Medicare for 2024, January, they started approving LPCs as well, which is wonderful. LCSWs and PhD clinical psychology were the only ones that had been approved for years. And I guess I want to get prepared for an even higher shortage of professionals because there's such a huge need now with Medicare. I know the insurances are often sending provider updates that, please join the network, for Medicare because there's not enough providers for mental health. And so I know in the article it talks about how sometimes insurances might dictate the number of sessions that a patient can have. In the past, before COVID, or during COVID, sorry, there was no copays, which was amazing. I think a lot of people really utilized mental health services more during that time. And then the insurance just took that away, and now they have to pay copays, and the copays are much, much higher than what they used to pay. So a lot of things I think are happening that affect providers who have a license, and it may influence their decision in terms of whether or not to take certain insurances. And again, it's a very difficult thing to speak about, but I think if I'd love to hear like other people's opinions, not just the public, but also people with a license who are a part of insurances or not, and how that's affecting them. Provider burnout is another major concern as well for me when it comes to supervising, students, preparing students for that as well. So it's just a lot of different questions that I have, and I just wanted to see if anybody had any opinion or thoughts regarding the article, because it does vary quite a bit state by state.
All right. Thank you, Dolores. Board members, anybody have any insight or input that you want to provide? All right.
It's tough. I mean, I think, I just skimmed over the article, but I think it's tough in general with insurances. And I wish the state can put something into place to support, because ultimately they are supporting the workers. But I even saw yesterday that, I mean, it doesn't have to do specifically, but it does have to do with the insurance network, not only in health, but it's also affecting the car and home. I think Progressive completely pulled out of Texas. They're no longer covering homes in our state. So all those families have to go somewhere else. I don't know. This is a tough one, but I can see how it could be a problem and also cause a lot of stress on y'all, and also the shortage being bigger as we go.
All right. And there was if you ever, you can go online and read in the Texas Tribune, there was an article recently about the psychology board, which is part of us and on the BHEC side. So there's all kinds of issues that are going on. I would encourage you to work with your professional organization, NASW, the Association of Christian Social Workers, National Association of Black Social Workers, any of those organizations that can use their voice to encourage changes at a legislative or higher levels within the state of Texas, within whatever communities you serve. So take advantage of that. Anything else on that topic, Dolores?
I think the only other thing that I had written down was MSWs being able to see patients when they're not fully licensed, and how I know some states are considering allowing people who have graduated who are working towards their hours, for example, to see Medicaid patients under the supervision, of somebody who is fully licensed. So again, things are different, how things are managed in terms of licensure and supervision, and again, going back to the insurances. But that was something else that came to mind, how I know during the lunch meeting, something that came up was the LPCAs being able to open up their private practice. And there was a question about why MSWs can't do that. But that's different. I think that, having direct supervision in the office setting is really beneficial when you're learning.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Anybody else have anything else, Dolores?
No, that was it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? All right. I think, and I'll agree with Dolores on that. I do believe us having those town hall brown bag discussion things has been a benefit to us as a board to allow the public to have an opportunity to speak. Excuse me, an opportunity to give input on the things that we look at. So, all right. With that, board members, nothing else. We'll move to agenda item 18, which is to adjourn. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Ms. Peña. I'll motion.
All right, we have
second.
And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and hit your leave button.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.